Hey Chris, as a strategic account manager, I'm responsible for knowing the whole relationship and the broader portfolio of Micro Focus.
Yeah.
And I'd love to have you give me a wider description of what we do overall as a company.
Well, yeah, I mean, as you know, as a Micro Focus employee, we have 4 focus areas. We have enterprise DevOps, we have hybrid IT management, we have security, risk, and governance, and then last but not least, all the way through, we have predictive analytics. This Lego board, believe it or not, actually shows the products from all 4 focus areas.
It's hard to fathom that you can show me how all 4 products work through a Lego set. But let's
and it's
see
actually technically about 300 products.
Right.
Shown in a little, 6 feet by 6 feet Lego display, which is pretty cool. Let's be honest, IT can be a little boring sometimes, a little nerdy. So it's been my pleasure to stand here for the last 3 days here at the Cybersecurity Summit Dallas. So it all really starts, what we're doing is we're showing the life cycle of an IT project from cradle to grave. And the good news is, most people don't know this, that's not the good news part. The good news is Micro Focus has solutions that really help companies with their digital transformation across the life cycle of an IT project. When I say IT project, we're talking about maybe building a new product, or implementing a new product, it could be a new IT service, anything that adds value to the business, either by new revenue streams or usually it's more cost reduction for the business. So what we have partnered with is an external organization. It's an open group. It's an open forum called IT for IT. If you Google that, IT, the letters IT, and the number 4 and the IT, you'll see that's an open group that's about over 100 different companies that are a part of it that are trying to come up with a common taxonomy for what the life cycle of an IT project looks like.
Are they all companies that we know?
IBM, BMC, but the cool thing is Micro Focus, because of our unique position with our broad portfolio, we are actually the leader of the group, kind of the first among equals, so to speak. There are a lot of other vendors involved, but we're kind of leading the charge. So this is really meant to be a reference architecture for how companies institute or implement a new IT product or service. It really starts with the planning and design. This is the answering the question of, okay, what is our strategy and what do we need to build? What widget? So you have a concept, like a concept car, maybe upper management says, I want to get into transportation, and I want to build some things that don't yet exist as a new revenue stream potentially. This is just symbolizing any IT project. You have a news stand over here where you want to keep in touch with the news and what's going on in the world and really your industry and what your opportunities or challenges or threats might be. That's going to feed into part of what we call the continuous exploration loop. That's why we have a train down here. We have a couple trains. This one is a continuous exploration loop, always exploring where is an opportunity for us to either make more money or to reduce costs. So continuous exploration is actually use case number 1 of this IT for IT framework. So that involves interviewing customers, interviewing analysts, keeping up with the news, constantly getting out on kind of a whistle-stop tour to collect information to inform your strategy. Once you know what you want to build, you then have to move into a design phase. That's why we have a diner. We think that deserves a lot of coffee. So that's where the architects would get in and really roll up their sleeves and figure out exactly what needs to be built by the developers.
Is this architects at the company that want to design this, or is it actually
Could be a third party as well, could be us as well, yeah. And so the smart people are sitting in the diner, drinking a lot of coffee, figuring out exactly what needs to be built down to the specific specifications. One of the challenges with any design is figuring out how do we have the legacy dinosaur applications, the old mission critical apps, the mainframe apps that just won't go away no matter how hard we try.
We know about some of those, don't we?
They have to coexist with all the modern stuff. So we have a Hoth medical chamber from Star Wars Return of the Jedi coexisting with the prehistoric dinosaur applications. And see that gyrosphere in there from Jurassic World? That actually symbolizes the coexistence of the new stuff and people with the dinosaurs. That is symbolic of bridging. So one of the aspects of this reference architecture is not only agile design, but bridging the old with the new. And that's a big value contribution for Micro Focus because of our AMC product line, application modernization and Cobalt. So once you have your design, which is harder than it sounds with the bridging the old and the new, that gets fed to the development team. Again, either a product or a service, still going to develop it. So this symbolizes the construction going on of a new widget or a new service, and that gets built and also containerized in many cases. More and more IT is moving into containers as a good deployment vehicle. Now, before it sees the light of day in production, we need to take it for a spin. So we have the symbolism of a carousel, and there's 3 different ways that I'm aware of that Micro Focus can do quality testing of a new application. I'm a security guy, so I always start with Fortify, application security, pre-building the source code as well as after it's live. So there's security testing. The second one would be performance or load testing with our StormRunner load product. And then last you have the functional testing through our FT product to actually click through the application and make sure there's no errors as part of the quality testing.
Are we able to test at scale with some of our largest customers?
We are, and that's one of the things we're proudest of is how all of this does scale on all 3, the security testing, the performance load testing, and the functional testing as well. So you need to make sure you have a good design up and down the aisle. You have a good development process, validated by the solid testing process. Then we move into the consumption. So in the use cases when we talked about continuous exploration, then it moves into continuous building and testing. That's another loop, that upper train.
Okay.
Then it moves into continuous deployment, which is what we're going to talk about next. So this is showing a shopping center. It's best to see from the front. That symbolizes the users, maybe based on who they are, what their identity is, what their needs are, can go in and shop for or consume or choose or select their IT products or services. So it might be a portal in some cases. So they're going to shop for and select what they need to do their job based on their identity. Solutions for that as well. And then once they check it out, it has to be fulfilled. You got to fulfill the order. We're showing that symbolically through both a bus for on the ground and airplanes to take it up to the cloud if needed. Get it?
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Once it's fulfilled, then you have to run it. You have to monitor it. You have to maintain it. You have to look at all the operations of it. So we have some different monitoring stations that symbolizes our IT operations management, like our ops bridge. We have network operations manager as well, and we of course have security operations manager, or security operations through a couple different products, ArcSight, Sentinel, and now with the addition of Intersil as well. Speaking of security operations, that is actually illustrated symbolically by the Batcave. It's one of my favorite pieces of this. You see Batman there sitting in his comfortable chair looking at a bunch of video screens, keeping an eye on what's happening in the city, making sure no bad guys are getting into the city he loves so much. So that's Batman in front of the Security Operations Center, basically the SOC, working in teamwork with the police for the enforcement arm of it, our bad guys. The police can also symbolize compliance and governance as well. So they're keeping an eye on things over here in the SRG area. Now it is IT, and unfortunately IT sometimes has glitches, so sometimes we have to put out fires. This is a building with some flames inside, so the fire team, firefighters have to put out the fires sometimes. That's the nature of IT, right? You also need to heal some things or fix some things in the hospital. Now you may not notice, but over there in the corner there's a garbage truck and a guy sweeping. That's part of the continuous improvement. That's another one of the use cases here in this reference architecture. You got to continuously clean up the messes, get rid of the glitches, the defects, the bugs, and then feed that back into ultimately the next release. So that's part of it as well. One of Phil's favorites, I'm sure, is the Brinks truck, protecting your valuable data, even if it needs to move somewhere, even if it's in motion. So you want to protect your data in 2 ways, both the format preserving encryption, as well as the traditional backup and recovery, whether it's on-prem or in the cloud. So in a hybrid IT environment, we have Data Protector to help you with traditional data protection, but I'm most proud of our format preserving encryption that's very unique in the industry. Last but not least, we have our mining team. Notice these guys digging for gold. They're mining in the big data using our Vertica and IDLE platforms, because you continuously continuously want to be pulling insights and some competitive edge out of your data, which ultimately will inform the next round of the planning to figure out what do we do next. You're never done in IT. It always restarts, and you got to go back into the planning, the design, the development, the testing, the consumption, the fulfillment, the operating and managing, the securing, the complying and governing, the supporting, the protecting, and then the mining is all one big cycle. So you have cycles within the board, within the process, and the whole thing is one big cycle as well. It's a never-ending process, and that's a good thing because we're all in IT and that's job security. So that, in a nutshell, is the 300 product portfolio of Micro Focus across all 4 focus areas in the framework of IT for IT as a reference architecture. Be sure to Google IT for IT if you want more information on this industry standard open forum reference architecture.
Well, thanks, Chris. Top-notch explanation.
Thank you. Happy to do it.